All right. This is that moment. This is that moment where we wait for it. And let's see. YouTube, are you coming in? Rockfin, are you coming in? Rockfin's not in yet. YouTube, it looks like we got ourselves some YouTube. We got ourselves some YouTube. We got ourselves some Twitter. Rockfin, there. Rockfin is in third. Rockfin came in third today, but Rockfin's here too. There we go. There you go. Ah, dude, we're doing it. What's up, everybody? Let me adjust my knee. There we go. Knee is adjusted. How about those apples? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. You are listening to Get Your News On with Ron. I realize I don't say the show name a bunch. I should maybe change that. Anyway, shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is a place to find all the content creators and streamers and video makers you know and love. They compile a list. They update it twice a day, so you can just get all your news in one place. To find out everything they got going on, to subscribe to their Discord community, go to independentleft.media. All right, without further ado, it is that time of the month. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's that time that I am joined by the one, the only. She is the co-author of the Yes Queen Chronicles, which you can check out over at savageandpat.com. Please welcome back to the show, Savage Joy. Joy, what's up?
Hey, so I'm totally gonna do this on the air. I wrote an incredible theme song and I sent it to you and you didn't reply, so I'm sure it's really good. Okay, so all you need to do is add a guitar. It's amazing. Ron and Joy, Ron and Joy. It's not Roy, it's Ron and Joy.
Wait a second. Wait. You have to. I mean, no, I did listen to it. The only problem is I didn't know how to share it because it's like in my messenger and I felt weird like having my messenger be visible, you know?
Oh yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah.
so you have to sing it. If you want to share it, you have to sing it.
Okay, so how should I do it? Like Ron and Joy, Ron and Joy.
I mean, you could do exactly how you did it with what you said to me or however you want to do it, but if you want to share it, you got to sing it. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to
Pressure's on.
subject people to that,
Oh,
but
come
okay.
on. Here
Ron
we
and
go.
Joy, Ron and Joy. It's not Roy, it's Ron and Joy. We bonded over punk rock. Our show is likely not for jocks, but it will knock off your socks. Ron and Joy, Ron and Joy. We talk music and politics. You can join, but please don't be dicks. But our content is sick. Ron and Joy, Ron and Joy. It's that time of the month. So join us and learn something. Look, that took me like
Amazing.
10 minutes, okay? Like 10 minutes of
Amazing.
my life.
I love it.
Yeah, we just need your guitar. And I mean, I think the Grammys will be calling.
I think so. I think it'll definitely win awards. Absolutely. But how are you? How is everything? You dyed your hair since the last time I saw you. Looks lovely.
I did. Thank you. Yeah, this is a kind of high maintenance, unfortunately, the pastel. But yeah, I had the turquoise for a few months and I got bored.
You know, as a ginger, I've actually never dyed my hair before, at least not permanent, but I used to get so I went to an all boys Catholic school for high school, and you weren't allowed to dye your hair. And I would always, but like they were always looking to get you in trouble for something. So I was always accused of having dyed hair. Like every like they were like that's dyed, and I'm like, no, this is me, this is my hair. And they'd be like, you sure? And I'm like, I am very very sure. This is my hair. I'm a ginger. This is what my hair looks like. But they would accuse me, especially because whenever it would be sunny, like sometimes like in the summertime, my hair gets a little lighter. That's why like my hair has been lighter since I've been in Southern California. But growing up in Pittsburgh, I mean, you know how it is in Pennsylvania. You get like 10 days of sunlight a year. So like
Yeah.
whenever it was spring and it was actually a little sunnier, spring's a season that we used to have before before climate change really took hold. But But yeah, it would make my hair lighter. So anyway, there you go. But I've
I
never
can't even
actually dyed my hair.
fathom. I mean, I started dyeing my hair when I was 12 and I'm 42. So that's why I have to keep it somewhat short, because I dye it probably every 2 weeks, honestly.
Well, it just seems like a lot of work.
I could do it in my sleep. It's just put it on, wait 20 minutes, wash it out. I
All
sure
right, fair enough.
no, I would not get it done professionally. I'm not spending like $100 to get hair dye. I'm just like, whatever it looks like, fuck it. It's only hair.
Fair enough.
I used to dye my hair with Kool-Aid back in the day. There wasn't Manic Panic. So you just heated water, you boiled water and put Kool-Aid in and just dunked it. And the ends would get like red and green and stuff. And you could do it with Jello as well.
Kool-Aid I've heard of. Jello I've never heard of. That's interesting. Like actual made Jello, or like the packet?
No, the packet.
That's still all right. Well, I admire your dedication. So news today, we got a lot of water news. A lot of news having to do with water. And there's a little bit of good news, a lot of bit of bad news. We'll do the bad news first, because I think that's kind of the best way to do it. I feel like let's do the bad news first, because this deals with water, folks. That thing that we need to survive, that we're always messing with. Yeah, that thing. And this takes us out to Minnesota and the Line 3 pipeline protests, which we've been covering on this show extensively. Not so great news coming out of Minnesota. Here we go. Let's just get right to it. This is from a local ABC outlet in Minnesota. Minnesota Court of Appeals affirms Line 3 water quality certification. The Minnesota Court of Appeals has affirmed a decision by state pollution regulators to issue a water quality certification for Enbridge Energy's Line 3 crude oil pipeline. It's the latest setback for opponents as the project nears completion. Last week, the Minnesota Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal by opponents of the pipeline, letting stand a key decision by independent regulators to allow construction to proceed. So the appeals court ruled, this was yesterday, the appeals court ruled that substantial evidence supported the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's approval. So basically what they're saying is, yeah, we're pretty sure this is safe. We're fine. This checks our boxes. We're pretty sure this pipeline is safe. The pipeline goes across about 20% of the nation's water supply, I believe. Pretty much the entire water supply for that area. It goes across native lands. It has leaked in the past. It will leak in the future. These things leak 100% of the time. Also, it's a devastating blow for climate change, too. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. There should be no new pipelines. There should be no new drilling. It needs to end. And the court just told the water protectors to piss off. Now, that's on the heels of something else that's going on. A bunch of protesters got arrested yesterday in a pretty badass fashion. We're going to go over to here. 69, interesting number, by the way. 69 Line 3 protesters arrested at the governor's residence. Dozens of demonstrators protesting the Line 3 pipeline replacement project were detained Saturday on the lawn of Minnesota governor's residence in St. Paul. And we can show you some of that footage from the Resist Line 3 Pipeline's Twitter account. Go over there now. Check this out. We're going to watch this video. Or listen to the video for everyone checking out the podcast later. So this is them in front of the governor's house. Here, let me get the volume up for y'all. Notice people aren't resisting anything. They're not doing anything, but they're just being shoved by cops. Like cops are just shoving them. They're just standing there protesting, having a demonstration, which they're totally allowed to do. And cops are just shoving them around. And then 69 of them were arrested, which they had to have stopped at that number on purpose. There had to have been more people there, but they're like, we're stopping at 69.
But to have 69 people arrested, can you fathom how many cops were there? because it's not like
Right.
2 cops can arrest all those people. It's, look at these freaking Antifa commies, they want clean water. Oh my God, let's have like tons of police there. It's absolutely disgusting, and natives are the one who always get fucked with this stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean from DAPL to Line 3, I mean the list goes on, and Keystone XL, and is that Duchess getting excited in the background? I
Yeah,
hear a
my
doggy.
husband's leaving for work, so she ain't having
Oh, she's like,
it.
no, you have to stay. You have to stay. Um, So apparently, a couple updates here. Apparently, the 69 protesters were released. So that's a little bit of good news. Of course, overall, this is terrible news for opponents of the pipeline and water protectors that this court did uphold that, oh, yeah, we're sure this thing is safe. Which, by the way, none of this stuff has ever been safe. Now, if you look at the actual science behind pipelines, behind fracking, they never did the proper homework. They never did the proper analysis. It destroys an environment. It leads to more earthquakes. It leads to more spillages. It accelerates climate change. There's no such thing as safe pipeline construction. There is no such thing. It leaks constantly. The one pipeline in Carolinas that people were protesting, it leaked right away. It always happens. It's incredibly dangerous. I did a media ecology study on the oil and gas industry in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when I was in graduate school. They committed over 2,900 violations in 1 year. Virtually none of them went reported. That happens all over the country. The EPA goes soft as an organization as it is, and even with their lax standards, they're violated all the time. There is no safe, quote unquote, way to do this. We need to ban it all. Ban it all. Get off of fossil fuels. That is the only option. There is no all of the above here. There is no all of the above. In the 70s, we had time to maybe do a little bit of all the above and slowly get off of this and transition. It's not the 70s anymore.
Absolutely. And all it comes down to, and everybody knows this, is money. It's
Yeah.
profit, all of it. And we have a president who, during the primaries, people would say, like what do you plan to do about, renewable energy and pipelines and things? And he'd be like, go vote for someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, he straight up said, fuck you, I'm not doing shit.
Yeah.
So,
Well, his biggest promise was, his two biggest promises: nothing will fundamentally change. I will not ban fracking. Those were his two
yep.
biggest promises.
And I mean, he has people from Raytheon on his cabinet and stuff. I mean, people are like, we need to do something with climate change, and we do. But like, look at who y'all elected. Look at the people you had in the primary. Like Bernard, who wanted, federal job guarantee, which would have actually helped, get these things done. And y'all chose Biden, who, your buyer's remorse honestly means nothing now. It's too late. He's stuck. Kamala doesn't give a shit. So what do we do? Like, you're from Pennsylvania. I'm in Pennsylvania. We have the second most pipelines and fracking in the freaking United States. Like, I went to native lands in Conestoga, which is outside of Lancaster, and it literally looked like water slides. And it was on people's property and on schoolyards. And that's legal.
Oh, it's amazing the stuff you see. And even here in California, I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. When we were touring Texas and we stopped in Houston, there was this site that someone was like, you got to go see this. And there were just these straight up oil wells and plastic refineries just all around the neighborhood. And there were a few residencies still there because there were a couple people who held out and were like, you're not taking our property. We're not selling. So they just had enough people who did sell. So they were like, well, fuck you. You can stay here and we're going to build around it. There's literally people, their backyard is a freaking oil refinery. And there's a school and a playground right there. And by the way, the air quality there is terrible. There's high reports of people with asthma there and stuff like that. And it's to the point where these kids drew a mural, like they made a little mural. And in the mural that the kids drew, there's oil wells in the background. So instead of like we're drawing our school and our playground and here's a bunch of trees and birds chirping, they have their school and their playground and they're playing and having fun. And there's a bunch of oil wells in the background, just a friendly neighborhood oil wells. And there's black smoke coming from it and stuff. I mean, we are a dystopian society. We really are. We are a complete failed state. And we would be, if we were a different country, the United States media would be showing us going, see how bad it can get. We're not so bad. That's what we would be doing to ourselves if we were a different country. But we're not.
Absolutely. And what about, all the climate refugees? Like people
That we're creating.
Yeah, people so rarely talk about that, but I mean, people are going to need somewhere to go.
Well, yeah, because like we're creating the climate refugees because, we're exacerbating climate change. And so people can't grow the crops that they're able to grow. So they have nowhere else to go. I mean, that's the thing that, whenever you hear these arguments, like these anti-immigration arguments and all these other things, it's like, look, people don't want to come here. They are desperate. They have no choice. People around the world see what we really are. They see the crumbling empire that we are. And a lot of Americans see it too. Not enough, but some do. They don't want to come here. They're desperate. They have no other choice. It's life or death. And this is the closest place they can get to.
Absolutely. And think about that irony. You want to come to our country to feel safer because we are bombing yours. That is the epitome of irony. You would rather be with the bombers than be with those being bombed. Like that is how much safer they feel in our country because they know we're bombing Black and brown people, not ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so funny. Bill Maher did. I don't know if you saw like that little clip of his that went viral, where Bill Maher
He
was
makes
saying
me want to barf.
he's an old Republican at this. He sounds like your old uncle at the Thanksgiving table who voted for Trump. That's exactly what he sounds like. And he just goes, oh, talk to an immigrant and you'll stop. His big lesson from Afghanistan, his big lesson to people was, you don't know how great America is. Go talk to an immigrant, blah, blah, blah. And of course he meant people who are immigrants because we're decimating their country. That's what he meant. Those are the types of immigrants he meant because, ironically enough, before he did that segment, I happened to have a conversation with an immigrant. I had a conversation with an immigrant who works at my local farmer's market, who I buy my potatoes from. She's from Bulgaria. She came to Los Angeles to be a writer. That was her big dream. She wanted to be a Hollywood writer in America. And she came here and she saw a crumbling infrastructure. She saw a crumbling society. She has a much lower quality of life. She sees a shrinking job market and she has buyer's remorse. That is the story. You want to go talk to, I do recommend talking to immigrants because you're going to hear a lot of stories like that. You're going to hear a lot of stories of, it's either going to be like, yeah, I'm desperate because you're destroying my country. I'm in this country because mine was destroyed by you. Or you're going to hear, hey, my country wasn't destroyed by you, so I regret frickin' leaving it because I have a lower quality of life now. Those are the stories you'll hear. So, yeah, take Bill Maher's advice. Go talk to more immigrants. But you're not going to hear what he told you were going to hear. You're not going to hear what he hears in his fucking ivory tower.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just on healthcare alone, I talked to so many immigrants who are like, I thought America was the richest country in the world, and I thought they took care of their citizens. And I get here and I cannot see a doctor. I mean,
Yeah.
Even just in that way, it's truly incredible. We're just supposed to be like, yeah, America, it's so great. But it's only great for people who are privileged or have cognitive dissonance.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are a by the book empire. Like we are the richest country in the world. We just use all of our resources bombing the rest of the world and pillaging the rest of the world at the profits of a few war profiteers. Meanwhile, the quality of life at home continues to diminish and diminish and diminish. All also we can just destroy the planet. which is exactly what we're doing. We are a by the book empire. We will have the same fate as every empire before us has had. And I just hope the fall from grace isn't brutal. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It can be a gentle one, but it needs to happen for our sake and for the sake of the rest of the world.
But don't you think at this point we're just being naive we know it has to happen. We know it needs to happen, but there's, at this point, it feels like false hope. I mean, not to sound defeatist, but I'm going to be real. It's like, I mean, aren't we kind of at a point of no return?
Oh, of course we are. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we're an empire now. Like, I'm not saying we're on our way there. I'm saying we're there. We're completely there. But we will fall. Like that always happens. It will happen here too. And I think it's slowly starting to. And all I'm saying is I don't want it to end in a bloody war. I would like to see it end just economically. We just get knocked off, basically. Like we just, we end the war economy. And how do you end the war economy? Well, that's going to be a lot. I mean, I think the only way you can end the war economy is through direct action, through general strikes, through protests, through a bunch of people saying we're not going to take it anymore. You brought them home from Afghanistan, bring them home from everywhere else. End this. Our troops should have a job working on our infrastructure. That's what we should have. Instead of just, I mean, we do have a federal jobs guarantee, but it's the freaking military. It's hey, we'll send you around the world to blow up a bunch of stuff at the behest of oil companies and war profiteers and defense contractors. That's all this is. It's just a big old racket. Instead of that, have a jobs guarantee where people are fixing bridges and roads and building solar and building wind and coming up with new energy solutions. We could do that, and we could lead the freaking world. We could lead the freaking world in climate innovation. We could do that. We have the resources for it. We choose not to use them. We choose not to use it that way. We choose to create currency for Wall Street and just have upward transfers of wealth instead of spreading it amidst the people and using it to fund Green New Deals and free college and healthcare. These are all choices.
I think that, that's the main reason we don't have free college is because that's one of the incentives to join the military. You get free college. And as far as the federal job guarantee, I think, that would, giving millions of people jobs to enhance something would hurt profits. And that's one of the reasons they don't want it. A lot of people praise Biden's infrastructure bill. There are some good things from it. There are, but it's 2,700 pages. These fuckers always slip in these, these things. Nobody's going to read that shit. Nobody.
Well, the 1 trillion, most of the poison pills are in the 1 trillion one. The 1 trillion, quote unquote, bipartisan one that Kristen Sinema and Rob Portman cheerleaded, there's stuff in there to totally privatize our roads, where basically there's going to be a per mileage fee to use the roads.
That was Pete Buttigieg's
original idea. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg's suggestion. And as a touring performer, that could completely change my way of life. The world of touring has already completely changed. Nothing is guaranteed at all ever until, we actually have this pandemic under control. But it could change permanently forever because of this thing now.
There's a huge addition to the $778 billion that Biden just took out for the war budget. There's even more in the infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
Like, you're pulling out of wars, but you're asking for more money
for war.
Yeah, sorry if I don't believe that you have this intention to be like this, all of a sudden this peaceful man who's against war.
Well, that's the American way. I mean, are there some good things in the 3.5 trillion package? Yes, there are. Like you said, there's some good things in there. But there's all these poison pills in the 1 trillion one where they're saying, well, we got to do both of them. And that's the American way. It's like, okay, here's these things that we should just have that should go without saying. We're going to give them to you, but you got to take this poison with it. It's like HR1. There were some good things in HR1, but there were also all these poison pills that screwed over third parties even harder, because we can't let the duopoly be threatened, baby, because that would break the system. We can't do that. We got to screw over third parties even harder, because we gotta keep our neoliberalism to neo-fascism ricochet. That's what we need. That's what we have, and that's what they want to keep going. They don't want to change that. As long as they have that, they know they're in business. And by they, I mean freaking Wall Street. They need it.
Yeah, I always think back to, I mean, I digress a little, but the example I always think back to is the crime bill. The first time Biden took it to the floor, it was, it did not pass. Then what he did was, Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered. He capitalized on it. He added the woman's safety act, or I forget what it was called, but it was specifically to pull at the heartstrings of women who were being abused and murdered. And he put that in the crime bill, and that's how it passed. So they're always doing that shit.
Yeah. So,
Violence Against Women Act.
Do you think OJ did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did too.
I listened to the podcast of Ron Goldman's sister.
Oh yeah.
And it was heartbreaking, but yeah, I think it's pretty much a given.
I just remember when that was, I mean, I was too young to really have like I was a kid, and I just remember they took us out of school to listen to it on the well, not out of school. We were still in school, but they took us out of class. And we listened to the verdict on the radio. Did you do that?
We watched it on the television. They rolled in one of the televisions as they did into the gymnasium, and we watched it. And I was like, I want to say maybe 15 or so. I didn't fucking understand what was going on. All I knew
I didn't.
Football player and a beautiful wife, and like I didn't. And all I know is, when he was found not guilty, you have a group of people cheering and another group booing, and I'm just sitting there like, I have no idea what's going on.
Well, it's funny, like I just, when I look back at all these moments in like in time, it really makes me think that, man, education is so screwed in this country in so many ways. And I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't have some good teachers. I definitely did. There were definitely some diamonds in the rough, and those diamonds in the rough changed my freaking life. But like overall, like the overall structure, because I remember, like, even as I want to say I was in fourth grade or fifth grade when it happened, the OJ thing. And I remember wanting to talk about it after. And the teachers were just like, you heard the verdict, go back to class. Like they would basically, like, kids who had questions and wanted to, they would like shame you. And it's like, I think back and I thought I was wrong, and now I think back as a grown man and I'm like, I was freaking right. They wouldn't talk to us. This is like this is cultural history in the United States. And they're like, okay, you heard it. Fuck off. You're an educator. You don't want to talk about, and I get it. We're 10-year-olds. There's only so far you can go with us because we're not, there's certain things that are just going to be beyond our understanding, but you don't want to it's your job to connect with us though. You're an elementary educator. You don't want to, and I remember it was a similar thing when 9/11 happened.
I was just thinking that.
Same thing. That was my same experience in school. Like, we were just like, hey, this are we going to talk about what just happened? And I remember my teacher at the time was like, I can't find the chalk. And I was like, hey man, the 9/11, are we gonna or whatever it was called, like, it wasn't called 9/11 at that point in time, I don't think, but it was like, the Twin Towers, it's like, hey, are we gonna talk about what happened in New York? Are we gonna talk about that? And he was like, I need my chalk. That's literally all he kept saying. And then other kids were like, are we gonna shouldn't we talk about what just happened? And he's like, I need to find my chalk. He was like a freaking robot. And this was in social studies class.
I was gonna ask you if it was like government class or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if he would just be like, dude, I'm here to teach algebra. I'm not going here with you guys. Like that'd be one thing. But it's like, this is freaking where you're supposed to talk current events. And he's like, nope, today's lesson is, Egypt, ancient Egypt or whatever. Fuck off. I'm not, like, read the book. It's so amazing. And then you realize, like, oh, I was right as a kid. But,
yeah, I was working retail at the time, and I remember, we didn't have cell phones or anything back then because I'm old, but I worked at the customer service desk and the phone rang and it was this coworker's husband and he's like, terrorists just knocked down buildings in New York. And I was just like, what? And you didn't have internet. You didn't have TVs. I was working retail. I was in a store. So I'm just like, I have no idea what was going on. And that was the scariest part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned there was a little bit of good news when it comes to water. There is a little bit of good news when it comes to water. Is it like, oh my God, the world is saved news? No, but it's a little bit of good news. So we just had some terrible, terrible news in regards to Line 3, which of course, shout out to everybody who's holding the front lines. Shout out to everyone who's protesting. Shout out to everybody who got arrested at the governor's house. And you can find the Stop Line 3 resources. Go to honorearth.org. You can find out how to support bail funds. You can find out how to support the protesters. And shout out to them. They are heroes. And do not give up. This court ruling was a huge blow, and it sucks. There's no getting around it. But, we got to keep fighting.
On Our Lines? Or what's the website?
HonorEarth.org is usually my starting point for it. But you can find, like Stop Line 3, like their Twitter account. That's the Twitter account that we just showed, who was showing that video from the governor's place. And they have resources for bail funds. They have resources for legal defenses. They have resources just for people who want to go out there and get involved or who want to send resources to people getting involved. So, yeah, shout out to everybody out there. And but here's a little bit of good news to kind of have a little bit of positive news. Here's some good water news. Court tosses Trump water pollution rule, but still weighing restoration of Obama rule. So a federal judge on Monday tossed out a Trump-era rule that rolled back water pollution protections, but is still weighing whether to restore Obama-era protections or simply undo the Trump rollback to return to pre-Obama regulations. So basically, in 2019, the Trump administration repealed an Obama-era rule known as the Waters of the United States, which expanded federal protections for smaller waterways. So Trump rolled that back. And he said, screw it. We're not going to protect these small waterways. A court just decided, no, we're going to at least put it back to what it was before Trump made that ruling. And so that's a little bit of good news. Like I said, it's not like, oh, my God, we're saved. Nowhere close. And again, the EPA under Obama was pretty much a slap on the wrist organization. And under Trump, it got even worse. And under Biden, it'll probably be pretty much more of the same. It has been so far, but little bit of good news there. A little bit of good news that they rolled that back. So there is now federal protections on smaller waterways. Again, very small victory, but we got to take the small victories where we can get them because they're so few and far between. So there you go.
Definitely.
So I want to talk about some of the stuff you've been up to recently. You were part of the organization who organized the March for Medicare for All that I participated in. And you have since left that organization. So, yeah. So for anyone not in the know, I know you put out some statements, but for anyone who may not be privy to all this, what happened? In the words of a great philosopher of our time, Hillary Clinton, what happened?
So I was doing like 14-hour days for 5 months, and I was a lead national organizer, so I kind of
All right, you're cutting out a good bit.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, we were losing you a little bit there. Start again.
I was a lead on the national team, so I oversaw all 56 marches. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah. You're coming in.
Oh, okay. And it afterwards, I started noticing things with the team that I would just do differently. I've been an organizer for 6 years, and I've never worked in a group before. I usually just do it by myself or with like one or two people. Um, and decisions were being made that I just do not support. As in, you know, someone trashing us horribly online and then saying, well, you know what, let's meet with them. No. Kick rocks. You talk shit, you're slandering us, you're lying about us. I'm not going to meet with you. Like, things like that. So it became way more drama than effectiveness. And the idea of Medicare for All and the activism itself was being put aside in order to address people's issues with other people on the team and things like that. And I don't care about that shit. Like, I just don't care. I just want to get in the streets. I want to organize. I want to focus on things that need to be done. And if it's below a 50-50 of this drama and productivity, which it certainly was, then I'm out. So it's not.
Well, what, like, because and I know that you've told me, like, you're still, or at least you've said this publicly too. You're still on good terms with the organization. You don't want to badmouth anybody, which I totally understand. I don't want you to badmouth anybody, and I understand where you're coming from, and you're on good terms, and this isn't an attack on any specific person or anything like that. But, like, can you go into, like, a little more detail? Like, what are some decisions that you were really sort of at odds with?
There is a YouTuber who I absolutely abhor. And they are disgusting and they are racist and they have attacked me online or on the air to the point where I walked off. And my closest friend in the group went on their show, even though they're part of like the so-called G Hive, and actually tried to take down one of our marches in Florida. So it was just decisions like that. I don't know if it's like, I just want to get along with everyone, or I'm not sure. But then there was someone who was absolutely trying to co-opt us for their own organization. Every time we'd post something, they would post like 8 pictures of themselves and stuff like that. And it was not treated as it should have been. They should have been told, go fuck yourself. Like, this isn't about you. And I think the want to like be BFFs with everyone, that got to me, because even if you want to include everyone, as in come to our events and we'll follow you on social media, that's totally different. But we had a team of 12 lead national organizers, and if you're trying to pull people in who are slandering us, trashing us, things like that, I can't be part of that shit. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just, it wasn't anything they were doing as far as against Medicare for All or something. They have a lot of potential and they have a lot of good ideas, and I still promote many of them. And I've still, I had a panel for them last week. So I do still, leaving was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, because I put so much into it. And I hope one day I can consider going back, but it needs to change, as far as it needs to be more business and less drama. And this happens with, things all the time. It happens with practically every movement. It
Sure.
always happens.
Well, I mean, and it has always happened throughout history. I mean, I always point out, and I know you and I have had these conversations before, you know, the left as a whole, and this predates Twitter, the left in the United States has largely just been a circular firing squad for about 100 years. And it's because of years of decimation, years of smears, years of red baiting and McCarthyism. I mean, this wasn't something that got invented with Russiagate. This has a history of 100 years, 100 years. Like, this is nothing new, yet we keep falling for the same playbook. And so this is just the newest incarnation of it. This is just the newest chapter of all this stuff. So, and the last time that the left in the United States, and I'm talking about the socialists, the anarchists, the communists, the unions, the last time they were able to get along just good enough to be a force to be reckoned with, we got a new deal. That's what happened. That's why we got a new deal, because there was a unified enough left that FDR had no freaking choice. And that's the only way change is going to happen. Like the only way change is going to happen is if a movement demands it and the people in power have absolutely no choice. But like, we can't vote our way out of this. We can't, the system is not going to work for us no matter what. It just isn't. But, if a movement's loud enough that it can't be ignored, that's when things happen. So I guess my follow-up question is like where do you think we go from here? Because it sounds like the overall cliff notes of what you're saying is it became more of just a focus on online drama instead of actual organizing, instead of actual, just really doing what needs to be done. So what's the solution for all that?
I mean, I hate using, like, dumb colloquialisms or whatever, especially as a blind person. This is weird, but I said keep the eye on the prize. It really is. Like, is this worth 6-hour meetings? Is it literally worth 6 hour Zoom meetings to dissect this nonsense? No, it's not. We could have a 2-hour meeting and talk about how we can push Medicare for All. So really, it's staying on topic. Just focus. Just absolutely do not be distracted by shiny objects. If people are going to do what they're going to do, whatever, we need to focus. And that needs to be, if Medicare for All is 20% of the conversation and drama and shit is 80%, it's not going to work. It's not. So focus on actions. There's an action going on right now that is incredibly important. I had a panel on it last week with 3 human rights lawyers. I say we because I helped make the petition. It's a petition that Biden is essentially allowing people to die during a pandemic because they're uninsured. So we're filing a grievance with the human rights, with the United Nations. It's a human rights grievance. We are filing with the actual UN. This is a big deal. And, there's, human rights lawyers involved, things like that. That should be the focus.
So is that still going on, though? Is that still like...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll still be going to New York to deliver it, because it's hard for me to just be like, fuck you, and walk away, because it's still kind of my baby in some ways, so I still support the actions. I just don't want to deal with anything else. So yeah, I mean, if people want to sign the petition, they can go to m4m4all.org. The more people who sign, the better it's going to look when the UN receives it. But this isn't a very important thing. So I'm still glad to be part of it in that regard.
How do you think, and this is a question that I grapple with, to be honest with you, how do you think that, like, the lefty indie media or YouTuber media or whatever the fuck you want to call it, how do you think that could be more effective in supporting movements and in supporting change, or do you think it's fine the way it is? Do you think there's a problem, um, or and or if you think there's a problem, like what? How could it be more effective?
Well, something I posted about several times, and I think it was yesterday I posted again. I like if you have, an indie media following or a big account, why am I the only person I'm seeing posting mutual aid requests? Like, if you have like literally 97,000 followers and you're like, oh my God, I care about this cause so much, can you at least tweet mutual aid requests like once a day? I mean, I do it constantly. And, because it's important. And I feel like if I'm going to go on my show and on my page and talk about, I care about the people being homeless, I'm going to share mutual aid requests that people are saying, I'm getting kicked out of my house. Things like that. Even doing something small like that. Also, having activists on the show, not
Hmm.
just big names, have a mixture. Have people tonight. I'm having two people who are organizing the Stop the Damn Wars on September 11th in DC. I want to hear from people in the street as well. That is just as important, if not even more, because these well known people, everyone's interviewing. Everyone who needs a voice and a platform are the people who are doing direct action. So I think there's so many YouTube people who just don't talk to anyone who's actually doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I have, and I try to do the same thing, like what you're talking about. I mean, I try to have on, I mean, I have people on from digital rights organizations on the regular. And, I had a mutual aid person on. Well, I've had a couple on, but I mean, the first time I did it, it was one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. The episode I did, Red from Seattle, for anyone who remembers that episode. I mean, that was like one of my favorite episodes of Get Your News On with Ron that I've ever done. And it was just talking to, somebody who has dedicated their life to mutual aid. And when you get these stories and you hear these stories from people, it's really eye opening because it really opens your eyes to just how, the state has really left so many behind. And there's some who they just left behind initially and they don't give a shit. And we don't have a very nurturing society. We just don't have that in the United States. We don't have that the way they do in a place like Denmark or a place like Sweden or a place like Norway, or, we just don't have it here at all. We have a very rugged, brutal society. That's just the reality. And when you go against that current, and you go against the current of just trying to meet human needs, they go on a quest to destroy you. And they go on a quest to destroy you, I think, largely because I don't think it's because they're worried you're going to cause too much, they're worried you're going to cause litter in a park. These people are probably the people who pick up the litter 99% of the time. I think it's because they don't want a society that sees what we could be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think leftists as a whole, they know they support housing as a right. They know they support Medicare for all. They know they believe people deserve these things. But if we're not listening to the people who are actually being devastated by these things, even though our hearts are in a good place, and even though we do believe in these things, it's not the same. We need to actually talk to these people who are dealing with this. We need to get a taste of their pain and really understand what it's like. Because just supporting it, like tweeting I support housing as a human right, that doesn't change lives. What changes lives is listening to people share their story, and then you share it, and then they share it, and so on. That's how change happens.
Well, and actually doing something to make
Yeah.
housing a human right. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, here in Los Angeles, it's like so many people were pressuring the mayor to keep his promises on this thing called Project Room Key. Like people were calling on the mayor to keep his promise. I mean, they were promising all these rooms to people during the pandemic. They didn't deliver on it. They delivered on like some ridiculous small amount, and then whenever he was confronted about it, he had some bullshit excuse. And
It was called Project what?
Project Room Key. And I mean, there were some people that got housing out of it. Like it definitely did help out some, but it should have been way more. They had the resources allocated for way more, and nobody knows where those resources are at now, or how they were spent. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just there are those moments where you just really feel hopeless against it all. Like you really just feel like, geesh, what can we I mean, when you look around, it just seems like such a hopeless thing, and it's set up that way. Like it's
Absolutely.
totally set up that way. But yet there's all these small things we could do that would have a huge impact if everybody just started doing it in their community. Like if everybody just started doing it, and it could really change the type of society we can be. I'm not saying it would happen overnight. I'm not saying it would be easy. I'm not saying that you can just do one thing and everything's fixed. Like I think eating locally is incredibly important. I think it's more important than people talk about. I'm not suggesting that if everyone started eating locally tomorrow, all of our problems would be solved. They wouldn't be. But but it'd be a huge step in a better direction, and then all of a sudden solving some of our other problems would be kind of more in focus. So, I think that, like, really digging in your community is, like, the most essential first step. It is the most essential first step, and that's something that you don't really see in the online news sphere. You just don't see that much, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm definitely not doing that either. And I want to. I just don't know exactly how to go about it really. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
Well,
something that
social media is like the greatest gift when it comes to organizing. What I did was I started a group on Facebook called Harrisburg Activists Organizers. So people from all over Northeast PA post their meetings, their protests, their rallies, their seminars, their whatever in this group. And it's grown to like 2,000 members or something. And it's a central place where people can post mutual aid and, just anything having to do with activism, organizing, human rights, help, anything. And it has been so amazing because I never heard of half this shit. There's so many organizations I literally have never heard of that are posting in that group. So sometimes it's really just as easy as going to Twitter, creating something that says, your nonprofit, and then just saying, hey, add your nonprofit to this, create a thread. It really just just utilizing social media can be really effective.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In so many ways, it can be such a curse, but in other ways, it can still also be used so constructively. But instead, people just, and again, I mean, I'm guilty of this too. You are, we all are, but instead, it just sort of becomes like a dunking platform, and it just becomes, I mean, it's kind of a bummer to see everything just devolve into a big gossip column.
It really
And
has.
it's been something that I've been just struggling with for a little while now. I mean, especially in the past year and a half. I mean, in the past year and a half, I mean, I was having this conversation with my wife. I mean, when you factor in just everything that has happened in this past year and a half with the pandemic, with, you know, our government showing us their entire ass and just the way this country operates, even though I have had a very, very low, as low as it gets, opinion of the United States politically for pretty much my entire adult life, um, it has gotten even lower. And I will never be able to look at this country the same way ever again. Ever. Ever.
I say, people say, the bar is low, and I'm just like, the bar is
There's not a bar.
literally
The
6 feet
bar's gone.
under. Like
Yeah, the bar
it's,
is gone. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the bar is gone, and I feel bad that I wish I didn't feel that way. I really wish I didn't feel that way, and I
it's
hope that
reality.
yeah, it really is. I mean, it's like, this is really, like, it's basically like, you know, there's a huge hill that you have to dig through, just a huge mound, and you have to dig through it, and you're like, "Yeah, but you know what? We can do it. We can do it. This is worth digging through. Let's do it." And you start digging, and then you get about midway there, and you're just knocking on cement. And you're like, "This is fucking cement."
Yeah,
It's
something
I
that
feel like this past year and a half was like we're knocking on the cement. And I'm
it's
not yeah,
we
sorry.
have to we find ourselves so analytical, like even so philosophical, so analytical, just automatically now. It's, you have a thought and you have to decipher, is this me being a pessimist, a realist, naive? Am I just like being a defeatist? What is this thought I'm having? And you have to like categorize it to put yourself in check and make sure, is this feasible? Can I do something about it? Or should I just say fuck it all? And it's like this thought process many of us didn't have until like several years ago, and then it really started getting more profound as of late.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, it really is. Like, I don't wanna feel that way. I'm not a hopeless person, like, I'm really not. Like, I still do have hope for humankind. But
I don't.
and that's fine, you don't have to. I mean, yeah, maybe it's just we're all gonna be dead in 10 years. Cool. If you feel that way, great. But, for me, it's like I have some faith in humankind. I don't have faith in the country I live in. None whatsoever.
Right.
And, you know, I don't wanna feel that way, like, I really don't. I don't wanna feel like, you know, right now, like, I am literally as far as I can get without physically being in the ocean. As far as like I am a westernmost American. Like, I live on the edge in Los Angeles. And I think it's like, well, that's where I'm at emotionally and physically. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, this is the only place I can tolerate. And it's, like, I mean, by what, like, friends of ours moved to Texas because of work. Like, they got a job in Texas, and they moved because of work. And my wife was like, "Well, do you think it's gonna be easy for like a left-leaning person to live in Texas?" And I was like, "Why are you asking me? I can barely tolerate it here. I can barely tolerate it in California. Why are you at? I'm not the person you ask." I am not the person you asked that question.
Yeah, we need to build like a little commune.
I've thought about that. Like I've thought about like what if we all just did pick a city and we all just moved there? But then that would turn into a fucked up cult really quick.
It
That's the
would.
problem. That would go south really, really quick. I mean, it sounds nice, but it wouldn't. I mean, some of my friends throughout this pandemic, like some people were like, what if we all just got some land and started growing food? And I think throughout like the past 18 months, we've all been wondering how serious was that other person? Because I'm sort of thinking, yeah, let's do it. And
Like,
I made it clear I'm serious. I'm like, look, as long as we can get some really good internet, I'll do my thing. We'll grow food. We'll just, I mean, hey, why not?
well, it's like our mutual friend, Nay. That's literally what he does. He's like off the grid, but
Oh, yeah, he's
still
off
does a
grid.
show.
I don't know if I
Like,
could live off grid, though. I mean, it sounds nice, but I feel like after a week, I'd be like, ah, fuck. No,
I
I don't think I
know.
could do it.
I don't like people, but I kind of feel like sometimes I need to be around them. Oddly
I just,
enough.
in some ways, I really am a creature of habit, and I like. I mean, I live in a part of LA where I get to still have all the benefits of LA nearby, but I don't have to deal with any of the problems, knock on wood. Like I live in a neighborhood where parking's not really an issue. I live in a neighborhood where it's kind of like secluded and off on its own. So like I always get to go home to that. So I don't have to deal with a lot of the bullshit of LA, but I still get the benefits when I need to go in there. And but I feel like if I was ever like off grid, that would be too. I'd be like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where can people go to learn more about you?
So as you said at the beginning, savageandpat.com if you want to check out me and Pat Cody's satire shitlib book. And on that note, of course, it's when Ron and Graham are touring, but I will be at the Philly show. So if you're in Philly area, I will be at their show. And hopefully this time I will not fall off the stage. But as far as LA, I've never been to California, and my sister-in-law is flying me out to LA with my husband. And Pat is in Sacramento, but he'll be flying out to LA as well. And we are looking to do a book signing while we're there, and also have like some musicians and stuff like that. So if you know of a place that's indie and cool and would be down with something like that, please hit me up on Twitter, because we're looking for a place that won't charge us like a bajillion dollars to rent it out or anything, because, you know, we po and shit. So we're looking forward to that. Also, at Savage Joy Marie 1, and my shows have been on multiple platforms. You can just go to YouTube and type Savage Joy, and over 400 show up.
Right on. Also, everybody, thank you so much again for all the support for Left at Wall. I did drop the GoFundMe link. I am still raising funds to make my movie. Check out the trailer. If you want to make a contribution, there's all kinds of cool perks. I'll be doing another round of thank yous tomorrow on the show. But there's all kinds of cool perks if you contribute. First of all, you get a thank you on this podcast on Get Your News On with Ron. You can get your name in the credits. You can get invited to a virtual screening where there will be a Q&A with the cast. All kinds of neat, fun perks. And there you'll get a bunch of behind-the-scene footage when we're making the movie. So again, that's GoFundMe. Type in Left at Wall and it'll pop up. You can also find that trailer on my pinned Twitter. It's my pinned tweet on my Twitter. And you can also find it on this YouTube channel, Ron Placone, and of course on Rockfin, Ron Placone. And thank you guys for being here. You know the drill. Duchess says wolf, and Lucy says meow, and Joy says peace, and I say peace. We'll see you next time. Peace.